Hello, Christina here. I've got another set of alcohol marker coloring techniques for you today. You can try these techniques on any page you like, or you can follow along with me on this page that I created. You can download it and print it out at the link below. Be sure to put something behind your page to prevent bleeding, and I like to use a clip to hold my paper in place. I'll be using a pencil and a ruler for this first technique, and I'll also be using a kneaded eraser. Any eraser will work, and we'll be making the Argyle effect on the bottom of this dress. Argyle is a pattern of diamonds, and I will be creating diagonal stripes in 2 different directions. The size of the diamonds are up to you, but I like to aim for about 3 stripes in each direction. I'm drawing the stripes in fairly dark so you can see them in the video, but in a moment I will be erasing them. You only want very faint lines because after the alcohol marker goes down, you won't be able to get rid of them. You can see I'm twisting my ruler around here because the second set of stripes will determine the direction of my diamonds. Don't worry, they don't have to be perfect, and since this is in pencil, you can always erase and start over. I'm happy with my diamond placement, so I'm going over lightly with my kneaded eraser. I still want the lines there, but I want them to be very faint. Now comes the fun part. We get to color them in. I'm using the point of my brush marker, and I'm very lightly coloring in the edges. Since this is such a small space, I think it's okay to fill in the border first and then color it in. Normally with alcohol markers, I suggest you coloring from side to side to avoid streaking. But these are small enough areas that it's not too much of a problem. I chose 4 colors for this design, 2 pinks and 2 purples. With Argyle, we will be adding white gel pen over the top, and it seems to show up better when the colors are a little bit darker. I'll show you a bit later an example with pastel colors. It's still pretty, but it is a bit harder to see, so it's just a matter of personal preference. Be sure to let your diamonds dry before adding a color right next to them. You can see here I'm adding a space between the rows because these diamonds aren't fully dry and I don't want the colors to bleed together. While they dry, I'm going to go ahead and color in the middle and top of the dress. I think it's so amazing that this is the same color as the lighter pink diamonds down below. It just hasn't dried yet. It's really neat how they change color over time. Now that the diamonds are dry, I'm adding the darker in-between colors, and these are 2 different shades of purple. You do have to be careful here not to press too hard so the colors don't bleed together, so just take your time and enjoy the process. When you're finished coloring all your diamonds, be sure to let them fully dry before moving on to the last step. It's time to add the stitching. I like to use a gel pen. This is a Jelly Roll size 10. You can also use an acrylic marker. And we're making little stitching marks through the centers of the diamonds. So as you're drawing them in, let your eye wander just to the area in front of your last stitch and try to hit the centers of those diamonds. My hand often likes to go off one different direction or another, so as long as I keep looking at the center of the diamonds, I do a pretty good job. For this dress, I also decided to add stitching along the waistband. I'm adding some simple shading here, and I'm not going to go into detail because I am planning a longer video explaining the process. Here's another example of the Argyle pattern on some pants. I used a size 8 jelly roll, and the colors are inspired by the 1960s. If you stick around, I'll show you another example at the end of the video. We're moving on to this girl's shirt, and we're going to do the see-through effect. You'll need a pencil for this, a black fine liner, and a little bit of knowledge of anatomy. If you're not comfortable drawing people, I highly suggest printing out the page I've provided and just copying what I'm doing here exactly. You need to imagine that the shirt that's been provided on the page is see-through, and we're drawing what's underneath. So we're drawing in the sides of her arms and the side of her waist and her undershirt. We'll start by coloring in her undershirt. I've chosen a purple color here. Take your time because you don't want to accidentally color in a part of her arm when you're not intending to. When I reached this area, I did notice I missed drawing in a part of her shirt under her arm. I'll fill that in a moment. I decided that I wanted her tank top to extend underneath her see-through shirt, but you could also leave this area skin colored and make it a cropped top. Here I'm adding that part I missed and coloring this area purple underneath her arm. And I'm darkening the tops of her straps and the bottom of her shirt to make it look like the area underneath her see-through shirt is a little bit lighter. Now it's time to color in her skin, and if you'd like any ideas for skin tones, I'll link to a short I've created in the description down below. Oftentimes for see-through shirts, I'll use my Jelly Roll 10 pen, but today I'm going to use my Artex acrylic marker in a purple to coordinate with her undershirt. This step is really easy. We're just tracing over her see-through shirt to make a purple border. No matter what marker or gel pen I use, I typically go over this twice to get a nice thick, opaque layer over that black line. Now we pull out our black fine liner to go over those pencil lines we've made earlier. I like to do this after we've added the color because these markers do bleed a little, but they don't bleed as much when the marker is underneath them. There are so many fun effects you can add to these see-through shirts, like fringe on the bottom or dots over top. I'm going to wait, however, because these little areas are the background and I want to fill them in first. So stay tuned and we'll do that later. Here's another example of a see-through top, and I did a mesh workout shirt on this girl, and I'll link to the short where I've created it down below. Let's move on to this dress. We're going to create a floral pattern on the top part of the dress. Choose any light shade as your base color and let it dry completely. While it's drying, feel free to color in the border and the cuff of the dress. Now that it's fully dry, we can start adding our flowers. The first flower will have 5 petals, and I'm just placing them randomly around the dress. To make the pattern look more realistic, be sure to place some flowers on the edges so that only a few petals are showing. Next, I'm going to use a different color and draw a different kind of flower. This one is just a simple circle. It resembles a rose, and I'm adding them in spots that don't touch but are close to the other flowers. After the flowers dry, I'm going in with a green color and putting tiny little ovals next to the flowers to represent leaves. Next, I'm using a slightly darker color than the 5-petaled flower and adding a little dot in the center of each one. For a little extra fun, I'm using a white gel pen and adding another dot in between all the flowers. And finally, on the roses, I'm drawing a dark, tiny curved line to represent a petal inside the flower. If you want, you could use this floral pattern all over the entire dress. I decided to make the bottom of my dress this light peach color, and then when it was dried, I added a simple pattern of dots with a darker color and also a white gel pen. If you like this floral pattern, stay tuned till the end because I color this page all over again and use the floral pattern in different colors on the dress that the girl is holding. Finally, we're going to make these slippers furry. This is the fur effect, and I'll be using alcohol markers as well as acrylic markers, and we'll start by adding a base layer of color. Since the fur effect goes over the outline of the slippers, I colored in the background before I'm adding my acrylic markers. And it's very simple. We're just making little dashes of fur all along the body of the slippers. I'll be using 2 shades of acrylic markers, and they're the shades of the same color, one slightly darker than the other. This first layer of fur will be the darker acrylic marker. The next one will be a lighter color, and then on top of that, we'll add white gel pen, but you can also use white acrylic marker. I'm adding in my lighter shade of acrylic marker now. It doesn't look like much at first, but hold tight. The more you add little pieces of fur, the better it'll look. I've actually tried this effect on a pair of pants, and I made a short about it. I'll link it down below. I'm adding in my white gel pen now, and this is where the fur really starts to take shape. Make sure the little lines that you're creating aren't 100% straight. They look more natural as fur if there's a slight bend to them. Sometimes when I'm done with the white gel pen, I'll go back in with the acrylic markers and bring back more of those colors. Now that we're done with the furry slippers, I'm going back to make a faint shadow over the dress that's completely dry. This will make it more obvious that it's sitting behind the piece of clothing in front of it. I finally added the background so we can go in and add details on this see-through shirt. I'll be using my acrylic marker again and adding little dots just for fun. One of my other favorite ways to add details to the see-through shirts are using colored pencils that match the border and lightly coloring over the objects underneath. I'll show you an example of that in a moment. Here is our completed page. I'll let you take a look at all of the details up close. I am just in love with coloring these pages and adding these effects because there's so many different ways you can make it look different and interesting and unique. If you see any other effects here that you'd like me to show you how to do, please let me know in the comments below, and I'd love to know if you had a good time with this page. And as promised, here is the same page colored completely differently, with some of the same effects but lots of different colors. We have a lighter Argyle pant, a floral dress, and a see-through shirt with the colored pencil on top. Thank you for joining me. I hope you had a great time trying out these effects. As always, take care and I'll see you soon.